Welcome to Let Me Say This, a safe space to talk about the real talk about being a business owner. I'm your host, Tisha Tyler, the practical entrepreneur. My guest tonight is Kimberly Watson, owner of Kakes by Kim and Attention to Detail Event Planning in Bowie, Maryland. Hey, Miss Kim, how are you tonight?
How are you?
All right, welcome to Let Me Say This. It is an honor to have you here tonight, and I can't wait to dive right into this conversation. So let's go.
Yes.
So let me start by saying this. I really never considered myself a baker, but since being in the house during this pandemic, I've been baking a lot, and I found that I love it.
Yes.
So tell us, when did you first fall in love with baking?
Oh, when I first fell in love with baking as a kid, watched my dad, and he was always baking for everybody in the community, family, gatherings, everything. So, as a kid, I was just so inquisitive about certain things. I was just like, well, I want to learn how to cook and I want to learn how to bake. And as a kid, I was baking pound cakes like in the third grade, and people were just so amazed, like, how is this little girl baking at such a young age? And then it was good. So it was really good just learning under my dad.
So, where did the idea to launch the business come from?
So like I said, as a kid, I was always baking and doing everything, doing just like my parents were for the community. I would, all the kids, I would bake and do everything. And when I started at my last job, I was at Verizon. I had bought in some cake, and I was like, hey guys, bought in cake. And everybody was like, oh, this cake is really good. And so one person came to me and she was like, hey, can I buy a cake? And I was like, you want to buy a cake? I was like, okay. I was like, well, how much should I charge? And she was like, well, how much it cost? And I was like, I don't know, $15. So at that point, I was like, okay, I got to figure out what does it cost? What does it cost me to turn a profit? So every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, all the major holidays, everybody at the job would ask me to pay. So at that time, I just said, I don't even know if I had actually came up with a name for my company, but I just was like, I'm baking cakes, and I got when I got the little cake boxes and all that. And so it was like so much fun doing the deliveries around Christmas time. And then in 2014, I had one of my girlfriends who her son had was doing a fashion show, and so of course I was with my event planning business. He wanted me to plan it and do the decoration, and then he also asked me to take the pound cake that I've been making for years and make it into cupcakes. And I was like, okay, and I was like a little scared, and I was like, but you know what? I'm open to the idea. Then I said, tell him I'm going to go take some classes at Michael's, and I'm going to learn how to do it. So went to Michael's, took some classes, and at that point, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. It allowed me to tap into my creativity. As a kid, I used to draw and be able to draw and be very creative. So this allowed me to tap into a different type of creativity. So if it was not for him asking me to make those cupcakes, I would have never known that I could have turned this into a business, because I would have still been like, just making my cakes around the holidays. And once I saw people like responding to it, and excuse me, they were responding to my cupcakes a little different than they did my event planning. Because with my event planning business, people kind of always want to negotiate or be like, hey, this is my budget and this is what can I afford. But with my cupcakes and desserts, it was like, this is the price and that's what it is. I was flexible to help people, but it was a totally different response. So I've been enjoying it ever since.
Wow. All right. So there are a couple things there that I think we need to unpack. So first, you didn't realize you had a business until somebody else told you you had a business. Okay, so that's the first thing. All right. So then what was it that made you make that leap from, okay, I just do this,
Mhm.
something I've been doing since I was in third grade, what, 8, 9 years old, just, oh, maybe I need to do something or shift my thinking and think a little differently about this.
And it's very interesting. I think the shift was more of the response, because when doing it around the holidays, it was just more like, okay, I'm getting a little extra cash and people are enjoying it, I'm just having fun with it. But then when it turned into it started to connect to
Mm.
how I was operating my event planning business. That this is actually a business, and this is something that can go really far because I just started out with my coworkers, and initially my coworker's son, and then my coworkers were like, "Hey, well, bring in another cupcake." And to be honest with you, it went even further because one of my coworkers, I bought in some cupcakes, and of course, because it was based on the 7 Up cake recipe, I had she said, "Oh, she said another lemon cake cupcake," and I was like, and she's like, "I'm not trying to be mean." She's like, "I love them, but." She was like, I thought it was gonna be a different kind of cupcake. And it was at
Wow.
the moment that I said, I need to branch out and make other outside of lemon. I need to do other ones. And so then now at that point, I was like, well, let me try vanilla. Let me do banana pudding. Let me do red velvet. Let me do chocolate. And so that was the start of like opening up to like this is a real thing now. Like I need to really branch out and come up with different avenues for the business of what I can do and how I can expand on it. So
All
those
right. So as an
are
entrepreneur, I hear a couple of different things. I hear one, you listened to your customer base. You
yes,
know, your customer said, or potential customer said, oh, I'm looking for something else. And
yeah,
so you were open to
hmm
doing something else and giving that customer what they wanted. So often, business owners or entrepreneurs, they feel like, oh, this is what I do. Everybody's going to love it. So
yes,
this is all I'm going to do. And they're
do.
not open to the idea of, oh, maybe I need to branch out and try something
hmm
else.
Yes.
So now, as a business and entrepreneur, coach and consultant, you know, I really can't stress enough the importance of choosing a name for your business. How did you choose your name?
Honestly, you know what it started with? I had initially I was looking at Kim Kardashian and the K, the K to back to back. So I did
Hmm.
a logo and I was like, takes by Kim with a K. So it was kind of like that play on type of cakes like Kim with a K. Type of be a little bit more professional. But the logic behind it was just more of connecting the K and the K with my name. Yeah.
K and K. All right. And what about attention by detail?
So, ironically, not to go too deep into it, but when I first met my husband, he had came up with this idea of starting a business called Energy After Passion, and he just came up with this name, and he was so excited about it. He was like, "I'm going to start this business, and it's going to be called Energy After Passion," but he never really had like a. He just said we're going to do T-shirts, and it was just more like a name, and it had nothing behind it. So then I was like so excited to be with somebody who was like thinking in terms of let's start a business and all this stuff. So I was like, I went with it and I was like, hey, that's gonna be my company name. This is not me. This name does not speak to anything that I do. And it was just something my husband came up with and it was just like what it was. And I was like, you know what? I need something that speaks to who I am and what I do. And I'm very detail oriented to everything that I do, organized, and everything has to be to a T. And I was like, my company name is going to be attention to detail. And when I told a couple of my clients, they said, oh, that's perfect. It was like, I love it. It was like, that's you, that's your name. So,
Right now. So you talked about how you saw the response from people.
yeah.
And so that leads me to think of a quote that I saw from you, and I'm actually going to read this. You said, from a spiritual perspective, I think of it, meaning your business, as a ministry to reach people, to put a
Mhm.
smile on their face.
Yes.
So, how do you see your business as a ministry?
Yeah. So I see it as a ministry because I feel like the work that I do and the response that I have with, how I interact with people, that it's a, I'm able to like I'm able to just share and be a blessing to people where when they come to me for what it's I'm a business that is providing love and everything that I do and I can give back. I have a mentoring program that mentors the young girls, and that is like our biggest thing in teaching entrepreneurship and seeing that like what I'm doing is I'm praying that I'm being able to be a blessing to people and just for people to see a different light and
So, what was your journey like moving from baking and cooking as a hobby to starting your own business? I think a lot of people think, oh, I barbecue fantastically. Oh,
Yeah.
I am the best. I make cupcakes like nobody's business. Does not mean
Hmm.
that you should open that as a business. So
Yes.
you're a great baker, you're a fantastic event planner. Was it easy to start a business for yourself?
I will say that the cake business was easier because that was a matter of easier in terms of I can go in and I can start baking and I can take one thing and start from that because that's what initially started from. I'm thankful that God has allowed so many different levels and opportunities to open up from my business that allows me to merge my attention to detail into like literally before I came on this interview, I was doing dessert tables. So although COVID exists, business has been down. People still want they still want some kind of focal point of celebration. So they're doing dessert tables and Zooms, and the dessert table is a part of that. So all my attention, all my event planning stuff now is being able to be applied to these desserts. And now I provide not only the look and the decor, but now I'm also providing the desserts. And so it's like the two companies merged together brings a happy marriage. However, with attention to detail starting out, it was interesting journey because everybody wanted it for free. And I still struggle with that kind of now. Like even with doing weddings and things, I've always been able to I just actually thought that watching my mom growing up, she did weddings and events and she always helped everybody. And so I just naturally watched her do that. And I just naturally thought that is what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to be focused on the dollar, but to be focused on helping people. And so for 15, 20 years, I just literally been operating my business of helping and focusing on people. And then I realized like a couple of years ago that I was like, and I had been in plenty of arguments about this, that I realized that I can't operate a business on emotions because those emotions will not pay the bills and they will not help me get out of trouble with IRS or IRS is looking at me like this is a hobby. So I would say that my biggest struggle with my event planning business was literally knowing how to price, knowing how to separate the emotion of being, it's great to be good to people and help, but it's also important to know how to balance the two because you'll go broke trying to help everybody. Cake business, I feel like it was a little bit of an easier transition just because it didn't require a lot of overhead. So like now as an event planner, I still have to kind of keep up with what everybody's doing. What's the next thing to keep me better than the next? So it's like I can honestly say there were times that I love what I do, but there were times I had to question, am I doing the right thing or am I,
Mhm.
what am
Mhm.
I doing? Am I, and a constant battle and back and forth with me. My husband was that he was always like you're just doing this like a hobby, and he just didn't get like why are you not charging correctly? And I was called speaking from the perspective of like how to help people. And I even operated the same way in my mentoring program where my partners would sometimes be like, no, we need to charge. And I'd be like, no, we gotta help and save the world. And I just sometimes used to get frustrated just in general of like, God, like why did you give me this burden? I've always wanted to help people, but yet I can't balance how to run a business. So, I'm still
Hmm.
growing and learning. So
Now that's
yeah.
interesting. So you spoke about having this conflict with your husband because he's like, "Hey, this
Mhm.
is this is a hobby." You're like, "Oh, this is a business." All right. So when did you determine that the time was right to say business? I'm all in business mode. No more of this hobby stuff.
Um, I feel like I've always operated as business, but I would say in the last 2 years, I've had to, I kind of just watched a lot of my peers who've gotten in this. They weren't in it very long with event planning and things, and they're doing really good. And I'm like, wait a minute, like if I'm still stuck at the stoplight and just sitting there, and the light is green, but I'm just still sitting there. It's something I'm doing wrong. And I really stepped back and assessed what I was doing and what I was providing. And I remember I used to say this a long time ago. I used to say if because I would when before COVID, I would my clients if I knew them, only if I knew them, that would, and most of my clients were referrals. And I would, actually, all my clients were referrals. And I would have them come to my house. So, of course, because somebody referred them, I knew them through someone. So they would come to the house and I would meet with them and I would always win them and they would sign a contract and they would be ready to go. And I used to say, I could get anybody. If I sit down face with you, I've sold you and I know that I can sell you. And I used to big myself up on that. But then when I sat back and I assessed what I provide, what I do, I was underselling myself. So of course people were like, I seen your work. Why would I not sign up with you? Like it's like a no-brainer. Like, hey, if you're only gonna charge pennies and charge what it costs to go to a dollar store, why would you not do it? So a couple years ago when I really stepped back and assessed that is when I said, you know what, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing triple the amount of work and making triple the amount less of what everybody else is making. And I was like, I need to do something different because then it comes a point in time where you're like, okay, if everybody else is making $10 and you're making $1, what's wrong with that picture? Something's wrong. I had a number of clients that were bigger clients say that they were concerned about hiring me because of how low my price was.
Mm,
But it did strike a it struck a red flag. It was like a red flag to them because they're like, if most of the clients that I'm meeting with are at this price, and like I'm way down here and they're way up here, they're like that's kind of weird. So I'm thankful they gave me an opportunity, but it is very true. I have to. I had a life coach that a life coach that told me she was like, you have to make your prices. It's good to be at a affordable price, but you have to balance it. Like it can't be so low. It has to be kind of in the middle so that you don't undersell yourself.
So I think though to that point, I think there are a lot of things there. One is that so often as entrepreneurs, we are so passionate about what it is that we do,
Mhm.
and but we don't remove ourselves. And it sounded like there was a point where you had to remove your emotion, you had to remove yourself from the situation and say, okay, what is the reality of
Mhm.
this? And I think, was that when you had some people who said that they were concerned about even hiring you because your prices were so low? And I think that that was such a wonderful opportunity that you were
Mhm.
given, that they were
Yeah.
honest with you to
Mhm.
tell you, hey,
Mhm.
this is a problem.
Yeah.
We're all looking at you like, oh, maybe I need to stay away from her
Mhm. Mhm.
because something's got to be wrong if her prices are
Crazy.
so low. I've,
Yeah.
I've come across so many business owners who are like, oh, I'm rock bottom prices. I'm like, is rock bottom really the best?
Yes. Right. Right.
And like you said, your quality stands up to the price that you charge. And so now you're not losing business, you're gaining business because people
Mhm.
appreciate the price that you're charging and people are
Mhm.
willing to pay for
Mhm.
quality work.
Right. And right now, I think I'm in the now that I'm like adjusting pricing and trying to find different avenues to gain more clients by using like sites like Wedding Wire and other places. I'm finding now that I'm having to be is now it's more competitive. Wake up call was like when I sat down with other brides or sat down with other people and I'm like, hey, here's my new pricing. And then it was kind of like okay, we'll get back with you. And I was like, whoa,
Hmm.
had that I'll get back with you, or it was never. I always had to sign right then and there. So it was it's been interesting. I'm thankful that God has blessed me that I can do both, and that it's always been a healthy balance between both. Sometimes it's crazier than others. Today was a crazy day, but because I was doing both the desserts and the business, and it was like, man, I mean, I've been up since like 1 this morning, but at the end of the day, I love all of it. But I am very hungry for more, and I love what I do. Um,
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the technical side of it. And when I say technical, I'm meaning, you said you're sitting down with people and you're finding out that your prices are way off. So did you then decide, did you start researching? Did you decide, hey, I need to do some competitor analysis here. I need to do
Mhm,
some recon missions and figure out what some of my
mhm.
competitors are doing so that I can make sure that I am, offering legit pricing and services. Is that what you did? And if so, how'd you go about doing that?
So with the desserts on the dessert side, I could go up on pricing. And I did make an adjustment in 2019 as a result of the government shutting down, and my husband was impacted, and we didn't have a paycheck coming in. So at that time, my prices were really low, and I made some adjustments to be definitely more of me making a profit, and it was the best thing I ever could do. And then some of my customers, they weren't happy about it, and for a long time, for about a good 7, 8 months. I kept giving them, I would say, this is a new price, and then I'd be like, credit. And then a few of them would send me a screenshot of what they previously paid and said, I want to pay this. So I had to let them know I gave you a credit to help out, but this is the new pricing. So I only had a few pushback, and I'm actually coming up now considering that I do need to make a few adjustments just because it's been about 2 years, and stuff like strawberries and things that I keep spending a lot of money on, I need to adjust that. But as far as for the event planning side of it, that side, the bigger piece on the bigger adjustment was for weddings, and how I did my research was through Wedding Wire. You can submit a request, and I used the account I had set up from when I was getting married, and I submitted request to different vendors to see, saying like I was looking for a coordinator. And then I was able to see how people were writing up what they were providing, what they were doing, and their pricing. So I got a good range of what people were charging, some were as high as 4 and some were as low as 2, but it gave me a good balance that
A
I,
good
that I
gauge,
needed.
right?
Yeah, that I could
And
take
and I am a proponent of using whatever resources you need to
Yes,
gather the information that you need to gather to
yes.
position yourself to the place of, this is where I
Where
need
I
to
wanted to
be
be.
to
Mhm.
make the money that I need to make,
Exactly.
you
Yep.
know, so
Yep.
much. All right. So 2020 was a really tough year for all of us, and
Mhm.
especially for small business owners. So tell me about your business pre-COVID versus now, and how were you able to pivot?
Well, I would say pre-COVID, I always reflect back and I think about like how my business was doing. I remember I used to be like, it was a certain amount of money I would bring in per month, and that was with events, and it was like really good. And then there were some slower months sometimes. So that it's like it kind of balanced out. But then when I look back at last year, oh man, I mean that was an interesting.
Mhm.
I like one of the things I had to learn to stop doing was I used to kind of pre-plan money that I was getting. So if I knew I was doing a wedding, or if I knew I had a big order coming up, I would pre-plan stuff around that. And last year was a big wake up call, and I had to like make a lot of adjustments because when I had like 8 brides canceled, or 8 brides have to be reshifted to another year or later in the year, was like, whoa, I was counting on that money. Of course, events are a huge hit. Like, I've had some people come back and they're like, um, they want to have an event, but it's kind of smaller, on a smaller scale. But one of the things that has been a blessing is that the events have turned into, I've literally for these last 2 months have been back to back with events every weekend doing dessert tables. And that has been the biggest thing now that people want dessert tables because they just want something that's small and intimate, a focal point for like their that whatever it is that they're having because they don't plan to have guests or like what I just did today. The husband was surprising his wife when she comes home. She's gonna have like a nice, beautiful display. It's gonna have desserts and I get balloons and the
Oh,
flowers and all that stuff. And when she walks in, she's gonna be very, happy about it. So the shift and the change in business has now come to operating in a smaller scale, but people still want to celebrate. So I'm thankful that people can see the vision. I'm just thankful that it's been for the last 2 months very consistent and being able to do that. But it's still a shift. My business, the cake business isn't where it used to be, but I will say with the combination of doing dessert tables and my normal customers just ordering dessert has been a very healthy balance. So I can appreciate that.
All right. So now I want to go back to the point where you said that it was a shock when you looked at what you were bringing in before and how you used to look at your potential income, right? So you looked at your receivables versus your payables and your real cash, and it none of that gelled. All right,
Mm.
so what steps did you take to help you work through that to make sure that you were operating in a capacity where you could count, where you really knew the amount of money that you had coming in? Because I think that is one of the biggest pitfalls for small business owners, is that they're banking on, oh, well, this is what I believe I'm going to have, so this is what I'm spending, what I believe, versus what you really have booked.
Mm.
And then even all that's booked is not necessarily going to come in as a payable.
Right, right. I will say that I've always been very good about keeping my records and information because I'm very old school, and my tax person tells me all the time I need to transition and do QuickBooks and all of that. And I am so old school. Like I don't even like a calendar, the digital calendar. I need to write it down. Right now, I don't even have a calendar. And I'm like, and I'm about to go crazy because I got to keep putting everything on my phone. And I really love to write it. I have to write it
So
in pen.
now, wait. So you don't even use QuickBooks?
No, I don't.
Miss Kim, come on now, Miss Kim.
I just because it's like the time I would go through
But
all
wait,
that.
but
I
you have an accountant that keeps track of stuff for you.
I do it myself. I literally so let me tell you how I have it. And she's like, you're very organized. Even when I had to do IRS, they were like, I was definitely organized. But I keep a track of so I'll have like for the cake business, I'll have for the week how much I do. Now, granted, pre-COVID, I used to write all this down. Now I literally just like when I get a request, somebody tell me they want it, I'll be like, okay, I put the date and I write their information down. So I was doing that all by hand up until like May. And then because the order slowed down on the month, I would put the total I made and then I would put what my expenses were. So I save all those receipts and then if it's $50 I spend and I made 100, then I put the difference of $50 was what was profit. I do also write out what I anticipate to spend. So like when I go to Sam's Club, I usually do most of my shopping at Sam's Club and in Costco. So I write out, I know per month target what I'm gonna spend. And anything over that is like I must be having more, like I must be a busier month. But I typically know this is what I spend on inventory, all that stuff. But I kind of keep track of it in that capacity. Now, what I had to do to make adjustments because of COVID was um just eliminate mixing that in my personal as a like a dependent of my personal money. Like I had to stop being like, okay, I'm going to use this to go buy these shoes. And I had to start focusing on this is money for the business to either re-put it back in my business account or use it to reinvest in the business. And so I just had to kind of adjust that. But I've been pretty good at keeping track of everything. And yes, I very well can move to QuickBooks and all those. Maybe one day, I don't know.
So
I just don't get the benefit.
back, what is holding you back?
I don't know. I think it's I've even had my girlfriend uses one of my girlfriends, she uses honey book
Mm-hmm.
or honeycomb or honey book. And I I started researching to use that and then I kind of got sidetracked. Now, I will say this. excuse me, and I'm gonna say not when, I'm not gonna say if, but when my wedding wire account and the knot takes off, I will definitely use it for that, because I know at that point I won't be as manageable.
Let me just stop you there and let me
Uh-huh.
just say this. Do you realize, we speak those things that we
Hmm.
want right into existence, right?
Hmm.
So, do
Hmm.
you realize that by saying, oh, I can just do it like this, I can manage, that you are saying, this is all that I need because this is what I
Hmm.
can manage,
Hmm.
right? But when you open yourself up to more,
Yes.
you got to prepare for more.
Yes.
And preparing for more means stepping out and saying, "Oh, okay, I'm not quite there yet, but I need to make sure that I understand what I need to do
Right.
when I get there."
That's right.
So
That's
that's
right.
just a seed I'm planting to you free of
Okay.
charge. Just giving that to you. All right. And if you want to talk more about it, just give me a call. I'm happy to help you kind of talk through that and look at what are some options for you that are not so taxing, because I do believe that that is one of the challenges, that, oh, this is just so overwhelming.
Right.
But what I find even more overwhelming is at the end of the year when you look at what
Yes.
you have not reaped because you
Yes.
have not prepared
Right.
receive it. So
Yes.
that's even more overwhelming.
Yes. No, it is. It is. I mean, people saying a lot. Me managing all that stuff manually, it's a lot. A lot of times, the amount of money that comes from my business account isn't as much as in my personal. So it's like my personal sometimes has to cover those expenses. So I
Mhm.
do have to do better. And you're right. I mean, that was one of the things for 2021 that I made a promise to myself, like even just stepping out on faith on other things, like when the wire, when the not wedding wire called me to go under them, I did not want to pay the amount of money I was going to pay a month, because I was like, I'm not bringing that in, with new clients, and they're like, well, that how do you expect to get new clients? And so they did sell me on it, and I was just like, well, you know what? I have to try something. I mean, I'm locked into a 12-month contract, but I need to step out of that comfort place and venture into other things so that I can, like you said, get into venture into a new world of opportunities. Because if you keep doing the same thing, I've been basing business on referrals, and who's referring people right now?
Mhm.
Nobody's doing anything. So
Nobody's doing it.
yeah, so I
Exactly.
lost that big clientele of most of my brides and events came from referrals.
You, but all small businesses have to do that exact same thing. You got to think, all
Hmm.
right, what next? Yes, these two, three, four, five people are right here. But once I do whatever it is I need to do for them, they're gone. And now what?
And now what? And
And now what?
that's exactly where I
Hmm.
am. I'm in the what's next and how do I achieve more and get more, because I just working. I tell people,
And I think you're a perfect example of a business that was riding high on referrals and doing very, very well before COVID. And so now it has forced you to take a second look at
mm-hmm,
how you've run your business and say,
mm,
okay, even though there's still a lot more to do. And
yes,
that's okay. We're
mm-hmm,
always learning, we're always growing. It's never too late to take the next step and just keep pushing.
mm-hmm,
All right, so let me move on to my next question. So there's a book and it's called E Myth. It's written by a gentleman named Michael Berger.
mm-hmm.
So Gerber, sorry, not Berger, Gerber.
Uh-huh.
Michael Berger. Berger was what? The guy from Sex and the City. I used to love that show. Remember
Yes.
Berger? So anyway, in this book by Michael Gerber, he talks about the three people within each business owner: the
Mm,
entrepreneur, which is the visionary or the dreamer in all of us, the manager, which is the process and order
mm,
side of all of us, and then the technician, which is the doer side of all of us. So
mm.
let's talk about some of the challenges that you have faced while working on your business. Because as I'm listening to your story, I see a whole lot of that technician.
Don't pay the bills. So now I'm trying to learn how to go back and focus on the business side, and owe me money, and I'm still ain't sent the bill off and the invoice. So I'm even trying to learn to be better at that and not just make an excuse of, well, I'm busy, or even social media. So I just feel like as a business owner, we got all these hats to wear, and it's a lot. It's hard. It's very difficult.
Right. So now, before we wrap up, I do want to just put out there that you and I connected because you were featured in the Sam's Club Circular as
Yes.
one of their Black business highlights for Black History Month, the month of February.
Hmm.
And I was going to toss it, but I opened it up. I saw you, reached out, we connected, we talked. It was
Yeah.
fantastic conversation. I'm like, hey, got to be on my show. So
Yes.
here we are. Now, how has that exposure in the Sam's Club Circular, how has that changed things for you? And has it then caused you to think about, because you were talking about how previously all of your or most of your business has been by referral. But
Hmm.
here, it's not quite referral. It's a little bit of marketing, a bit of advertising. So how have you seen that change your business?
It has changed drastically. I mean, every day like I could say, even before COVID, I would not literally, like, people didn't go on my website like that to beg to place orders. So I've had calls from all over. I just been such a blessing, and sparked up a whole nother group of people that have been reaching out. People have been following me more. One of my dreams and I'll say this initially, I was never really big on social media, and I know that social media is how people connect, how people see you, and it's like your website is you. That makes that makes you who you are and what's official. But your social media is what people it's the first thing people want to go to, and they want to see, what are you posting? What do you do? How what makes you who you are? Place with an opportunity to do some cupcakes for a basketball player, and their publicist said my page had no content. So I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So the person had been working with me trying to help me get that up. And then that was prior to the Sam's Club. And so now it's like, and I got some followers from, with that doing that for the basketball player. But then with Sam's Club, it just opened up a whole new opportunity. I mean, people are reaching out. I mean, every single day I'm having people reach out and they're like, "Hey, I saw you in Sam's Club and I want to place an order." Now, I be lying if I? It's one thing to deal with people you know, but it's another thing to deal with people you don't know and that found you, and it creates another level of stress because, and it could just be me. I mean, with this opportunity, it's made me feel a little off balance because is exciting, and it is something that I've I never even imagined could happen. I truly am blessed and an amazing experience, but it also brings another level of stress because it's like you want to make sure that you live up to the expectation that people see, because if they feel like if you were put in that means you have to be awesome and great. So my prayer is that I am living up to what people see or feel, and like I said, it could be just me that I'm such a worrisome person that I always want everything to be perfect, and life isn't that perfect. Life isn't about being perfect. So I'm just trying to take it all in and enjoy the ride, and because I always, like, my thing before was always like, okay, well, I know I need to build my page and build followers, and I was like, okay, I want to get to where everybody else is with 2 and 3,000 followers and 50,000 followers and 100,000 followers. But with that comes a lot as well, whatever God has ahead. So I can definitely say it's been a great opportunity.
All right, there you go. So now that's all. This has been such an amazing conversation. But before we wrap up, so
Mhm.
in 30 seconds or so that we have left, what do you say to someone who has been bitten by the entrepreneurship bug?
Let me say this. Do your research. Prepare yourself. Like, I believe God gives us all gifts and talents, and all of us are one step away from being able to be an entrepreneur. When I hear people say, God, I don't have no talents and I don't have this, we all have something within us that we can do. And to be able to be an entrepreneur and be able to bless other people with whatever that is, but you don't have to do it because some people don't want that stress. My sister caters and she's a caterer, but she always says she's happy with just doing for who she caters for, and where I'm that person who's ready to take on the world and just create so many opportunities. So I believe that you have to want it in your, you have to want it, and you have to be able to work hard, and requires you to have to wear multiple hats. It requires you to be very focused and having to, you just have to be able to do, you have to do a lot. Like, sometimes people just be like, I just want to get to the end, but you gotta put in the hard work. You're gonna have to work and do multiple things. So it may start,
Absolutely.
but it'll pay off in the end. It will pay off.
All right. Last but certainly not least, how can people reach you?
Yes, you can follow me on Cakes by Kim, but on Instagram, well, my website is, if anybody want to place more, it's cakesbykim.net. That's what K, Kakes by Kim.net. And then for my social media is Cakes by I'm sorry, Kimberly. So that's KAKESBY and then Kimberly, KIMBERLY. So that's on Instagram.
All right. Thank you so much for your timing and your willingness to share your story with us. Take care. God bless and
Thank
much
you.
success. And I
Thank
want to definitely connect with you because we got to
Yes,
talk about getting your
for
stuff
sure.
situated here
Yes,
so that you are
I need
ready
help.
to receive all that is coming
Yes,
your way.
I appreciate it. I claim it. Thank you.
All right, there you go. All right, take care. So, Cakes by Kim out, fantastic woman doing amazing work. Thank you so much for tuning in and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.